The Galactic Preservation Society's most prized artifact sat in its climate-controlled chamber on the 73rd floor, bathed in precisely calibrated light. The dragon egg, last of its kind, recovered from the volcanic wastes of Draken Prime, had resisted every attempt at incubation for 5 centuries. Scientists from 100 worlds had tried everything: plasma baths, gravitational harmonics, stellar radiation, even carefully orchestrated symphonies of quantum frequencies. Nothing worked. The egg remained dormant, its crystalline surface swirling with colors that had no names in any known language. Marcus Webb didn't care much about the egg. He cared about finishing his shift, getting home to his cramped apartment in Sector 7, and maybe catching the second half of the lunar hockey game. He was human, one of the newest species to join the galactic community, and worked the night custodial rotation at the Society's headquarters. It wasn't glamorous work, but it paid better than the mining colonies. On Tuesday, he made a mistake. His lunch break coincided with the 73rd floor rotation, and regulations said he couldn't leave his assigned zone during shift hours. So he sat down on the observation bench outside the egg chamber, unwrapped a sandwich, and took a bite. Pastrami on rye, his grandmother's recipe, or as close as he could get with replicated ingredients. The mustard was too perfect, lacking that proper bite, but the pickles were decent. He'd even managed to find real sourdough at the station market. Marcus chewed contentedly, watching the egg through the transparent aluminum barrier. Pretty thing, he supposed. Shame it was dead. That's when the first crack appeared. It was subtle, a hairline fracture that caught the light at an angle. Marcus stopped mid-bite, sandwich halfway to his mouth. Another crack spiderwebbed across the surface. Then another. "Oh, hell," Marcus whispered. Alarms began to wail. Emergency bulkheads slammed down. The observation chamber flooded with researchers in bio-suits, instruments waving frantically. Director Veltrax, an insectoid krill with multiple doctorates, practically flew through the security doors. "Nobody move." Veltrax's translator boomed. "What happened? What changed?" Marcus sat frozen, sandwich still in hand, as a dozen species stared at him. The egg continued to crack, pieces of crystalline shell falling away like flower petals. Something stirred inside, something that radiated heat and ancient power. A small snout pushed through, followed by a head crowned with obsidian horns. The dragon was no larger than a house cat, its scales shifting through colors like oil on water. It looked directly at Marcus. Then it chirped. The sound was absurdly cute, coming from a creature of legend. The dragon squeezed through the opening, shook itself free of membrane, and spread wings that seemed too delicate to ever support flight. It chirped again, louder, more insistent. "Remarkable," breathed Dr. Shalix, a crystalline being whose expertise in exobiology was unmatched. "The bioscanners are detecting food, chemical compounds associated with processed grains, fermented products, preserved meats." She turned to Marcus. "What are you eating?" "A sandwich," Marcus offered weakly. The dragon launched itself at the barrier, tiny claws scrabbling against the transparent surface. It wasn't aggressive, it was hungry. 500 years of dormancy. And the thing that finally triggered its hatching response was the smell of a pastrami on rye. Veltrax's antennae quivered with either rage or revelation. "Humans." Of course it would be humans. He turned to his team. "Pull the archive files on Draken Prime. Cross-reference environmental data, chemical compositions, atmospheric contents." Director, Dr. Shalix interrupted, her voice filled with wonder. "Draken Prime's geological surveys mention extensive bacterial colonies in the volcanic vents, lactobacillus variants, fermentation processes. The dragons weren't pure carnivores. They were opportunistic feeders drawn to fermented proteins. Like pastrami," Marcus said quietly. "Like pastrami," Veltrax confirmed. The dragon chirped again, more demanding now. Marcus looked at his sandwich, then at the most significant xenobiological discovery in 5 centuries, then back at his sandwich. Can I feed it?" 3 hours later, After extensive decontamination procedures and a lecture about protocol violations that Marcus barely heard, he sat in the egg chamber. The dragon, tentatively named Pickle by Marcus, to the horror of the scientific community, devoured bits of his sandwich with obvious relish. Humans, the galaxy was learning, had a talent for accidentally solving impossible problems, usually right before lunch.